82% of us are not saving enough to have a good standard of living in retirement according to the IFS. This is understandable as it can be tempting, if not an easy option, to put off sorting your pension. And even if you do want to sort it, it's hard to know how much you should be putting away, as 77% of savers don't know how much they'll need in retirement. Most people think that paying in the minimum amount instructed by your workplace pension is enough, but unfortunately this might not be the case. And this video is all about helping you understand whether your pension is on track to deliver the retirement you want, and if it's not, helping you understand how you can get it back on track. But before we begin, if you're new here, I'm Alex, a management consultant by day, and on this channel we like to talk about all things personal finance with particular focus on how to grow your money. If you'd like to follow my own personal finance journey with regular portfolio updates, as well as a bunch of other personal finance related videos, then I'd greatly appreciate subscribe. But for this video, let's get into it, and let's start with the basics of what we mean by your pension pot. A pension pot is the total pension contributions you and your employer have saved towards your retirement. And once you retire, it will be the pot of cash you'll likely rely on to live off. This differs from a state pension, which is a regular weekly payment from the government intended to cover basic needs when you reach a state pension age. Most people are eligible for a state pension as long as they have sufficiently contributed to national insurance. But unfortunately, your state pension likely won't be enough by itself to fulfill your overall retirement needs. To have a good standard of living, you'll likely need to save some extra money. This is because at the time of recording, the maximum annual amount you can receive from the state pension is £11,502 a year, which is below the amount you'll need to have a minimum standard of living according to the Retirement Living Standards Organisation. Their standards suggest that in retirement you'll need at least £14,000 to have the minimum standard of living as a single person outside of London. For a moderate standard of living you'll need over 30k, and for a comfortable standard of living you'll need over 40k. And if you're in London you'll need even more, but if you're a couple the amount needed per person will be smaller. Nevertheless, in nearly all of these cases there will be a shortfall between what the state pension provides and what you'll need in retirement. And a private pension pot is the most common mechanism used to make up this shortfall. This of course is also assuming you retire at state pension age, which is currently 66 and due to increase to 67 in the coming years. If you want to retire earlier than this, you'll need an even bigger private pension pot, as you'll be solely relying on that pot in the years prior to getting your state pension. With private pensions, you can currently access them from the age of 55. So if you build a pot big enough, you can retire from an early age. It's worth clarifying at this point that in this video we're only considering a pension scheme called defined contribution. This is by far the most common pension scheme out there nowadays, and one you've likely already signed up to through your employer's workplace scheme. There's another scheme called defined benefit, which you've likely heard of. It's also known as final salary. This provides you a specific income in retirement, but the overall scheme is much less common nowadays. Instead, most employers have chosen to set up defined contribution schemes for their employees. How this works is that instead of promising you a specific income, like with final salary, you build up a pot of money, and then when you get to the age you want to retire and are legally allowed to access the pot, you have a few options on what to do with the pot to give you an income in retirement. The two most common options are annuities and pension drawdown. The annuity option is where you exchange the pot with an insurance company for something called an annuity. This essentially provides you a defined annual income which will be paid to you every year for the rest of your life. So it's a guaranteed income for life. The other common option in pension drawdown is where you take money out of your pension pot as regular taxable income as and when you need it to live off. If you want to find out more information about what to do with your pot when you reach retirement age, the options and what's best for you, there's plenty of resources online. But for this video and for most people watching this who are many years away from retirement, you don't need to worry too much about what you'll do with the pot at retirement age, as this is a long way off. And instead your focus should be on actually understanding how big your pot needs to be and building towards that pot size. You've likely already got one pot set up at least, as employers are legally obliged to provide a workplace pension scheme and must automatically enrol you if you meet some basic conditions, with the main two being that you're over 22 and earn over $10,000 a year. Currently the law states that your employer must contribute a minimum of 3% of your salary when you contribute 5% through this auto enrolment scheme. This means that most of you will be in the bucket of contributing to your pension already. And now the question is, are you contributing enough to deliver the pension you want? To answer this question, to do this, we need to work out how much your current pots are on course to be worth by the time you retire, considering their current value and your future contributions. Rather than make you do some really fiddly maths here, for which you'll need to consider inflation, income adjustments and investment growth, we're going to make life a whole lot simpler and use an online tool. We're going to use a pension calculator from Money Helper. Through their calculator, which I'll link in the description, you'll be able to find out whether you're currently on track to deliver the retirement you want. It's worth mentioning that the calculator does rely on some assumptions: an investment growth of 5% a year, inflation of 2.5% a year, an increase in payments to your pot by 2.5% a year to reflect annual pay growth, and that you buy an annuity. However, these are all reasonable, and it's worth remembering we're only using this to provide a rough indication of where we're heading, and if needed, allowing us to find out how we can get back on track. So let's bring it up and let's get started. In the first section, you'll need to enter some details about yourself. Firstly, you'll need to input your date of birth, as this will be needed to calculate when you're eligible for the state pension. And let's go with a random date of birth here for a 30-year-old. Then you'll need to enter your gender, let's go with male, and then you'll need to enter the age you want to retire at. Remember, at the moment you can access your private pension from 55, but this is increasing to 57 in 2028, and you can access your state pension from the age of 66 currently, but that's increasing to 67 in a couple of years. So let's enter here 65. Next, you need to enter your gross salary/income. This will be used to calculate how much you'll need in retirement per year. And let's enter the average UK salary per year according to the ONS, which is around £35,000. Based on this number, Money Helper have calculated that anyone with this salary will need around £21,000 a year in retirement. And this calculation is based on this statement here, where they suggest that people in the same salary range say they'd like to have around 60% of their current salary in retirement, and 60% of 35,000 is 21k. Don't worry too much about the number here and whether you think it's not right for you, as we'll come back to it at the end, and we'll leave it as it is for now. The next step is entering the current value of any pension pots you have. So let's enter one pension pot as an example, and let's say we have 50,000 in one pot. If you had a second pot, you would simply click add pension pot, and you will continue doing this until you've knowed all your pension pots. The next step is entering the details of your current contributions to pension pots. Here, the easiest way to enter these details for most people will be entering the percentage you currently contribute to your pension scheme per year, and the percentage your employer currently contributes to the pension scheme per year. For those eligible for auto-enrolment, the minimum amount you contribute to your pension is 5%, and the minimum amount your employer contributes to your pension is 3%. However, many organisations go beyond this in terms of the amount the employer contributes. And if you're unsure how much you're currently contributing and don't know the percentages, then it may be worth checking your payslip and looking at the pound amounts. And instead of using the percentages, you can simply use the pound from the drop down and enter the amount there. To keep things simple, I'm just going to enter the minimum amount required for auto-enrolment, which is 5% for the individual, the employee, and 3% for the employer. The next step is inputting how much you'd like to take as a tax-free lump sum from your pot. You're entitled to take up to 25% of your pot as tax-free income. And many people do take a percentage for various different reasons, from wanting a big holiday, an adventure of a lifetime, to paying off the rest of their mortgage. So let's put 10% here. After you've done this, you need to input whether you have any defined benefit pension income. So this is the final salary pension scheme we mentioned earlier, and I'll put no for this, so 0. The same for the next question. You need to input whether you have any other income coming in during retirement. So for example, from savings, from property, or from a pension fund from a deceased partner. For this, again, I'll put no, so 0. And this is the last piece of information you need to provide the calculator. So let's click view your results and let's see the outcome. Here we can see the gap between where we want to be and where we're on course to head for our pension income. We can see two scenarios here, one before state pension age and one after state pension age. The reason they've divided this in two is because at state pension age, you get an additional income in the state pension. And before then, you're relying on your other income sources, which for most people is their private pension pots. So let's go through what this means for this person. We've created this artificial person based on the answers we put in this video. We can see that based on the first scenario at retiring at age 65, the individual has no state pension at this age, no defined benefit pension scheme as we enter zero, no other income as we enter zero, and through their pension pot they have £9,640 coming in each year. This is a shortfall of £11,360 compared to the target income, which is a huge shortfall. However, it does look better when we consider the individual at state pension age, as at that age the individual has additional income coming from the state pension of £11,502, and from 68 onwards the shortfall is just £562. Of course, this shortfall number is all based on the target income figure of £21,000 and the calculation Money Helper did of taking a percentage of your current income. Some people doing this may feel that that's not an accurate picture, an accurate number for what they'll need in retirement. And to change this, you can easily do it. You just head down the page and you just use this lever here to change your retirement income. So for example, if this individual thinks that £21,000 is too much and they'll need much less income in retirement, they can simply push this lever to the left to the level of income they think they'll need in retirement. Let's say they think they need £17,500 per year in retirement. If we scroll to the top now, we can see the calculations have been updated. For the first scenario, before state pension age, the shortfall has been reduced to only £8,000 a year. I say only, it's still a huge number. And for when the individual reaches state pension age, there's actually a surplus of nearly £3,000. So you can play around with your target income retirement if you feel that the number provided by this calculator is not accurate. A neat tool which may help you gauge how much you'll need in retirement each year is using the retirement living standards. This is 3 levels of living standard, each with a target level of income. And you can adjust it if you're a single person or a couple. And you can also adjust it if you're living in London. And for each of these standards of living, there's really specific details in terms of what that standard of living entails for your house, for your food, your transport, holidays and leisure, clothing and personal, and helping others. And this level of detail might help you visualize a little bit more in terms of what exactly you'll need in retirement, your expected living standard. But overall, whatever method you choose to enter your target income in retirement, you should now have identified if there is a gap between where you want to be and where you're on course to head through this calculator. If you do have a shortfall, you'll need to build a plan to get yourself back on track. And there's a few things you can do, such as increasing your pension contributions, which is a strong starting point for most people. Or you could increase the age you wish to retire. You can play around with these levers here to find out what's right for you and what you can realistically commit to. And from that you can build your plan, understanding what your retirement could look like and what you need to do to get there. That's all from this video. I hope it's helped. If you enjoyed it, the biggest thing you can do for me is hitting that like button. If you want to find out my own plan to retire early, I have a video in the bottom right. Thanks.